topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good morning. Welcome to the 16th year of Ask the Experts, where we bring you the finest experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. This is the last Monday of the month. We always, for the last several years, have attorney Debbie Baker of the London Baker Law Firm. I got to tell you, I try not to personally endorse our experts, even though I love them all. But Debbie Baker, attorney Debbie Baker, who practices in the area of estate planning, I totally endorse her. I have no problem sending clients to her. She's an amazing woman with an amazing story. Let me welcome you to attorney Debbie Baker.
Gosh, it's hard to live up to your expectations, Steve.
No.
I appreciate it. Look, it's good. It's good.
You know what? When it comes to estate planning, Debbie, I think it takes a certain type of person, and I'm going to put this at the top of the list. You have the biggest heart and you really care about people, because before you were an estate planning attorney, you were a life coach, and I think you still are, but you've got to have a certain heart and care about people. And when it comes to estate planning, I mean, we're talking about when you pass on, and you just got such a great heart. But, I noticed our numbers have started really going up with your show. So we're getting a lot of new followers. Tell people about your law firm, London Baker Law.
Okay. I love people who listen every month to call in and say that they learned something new. So I really do think to tell this story a little bit differently each time. Well, I thought about going to law school when I was young, like at the age that people generally go to law school. And it just wasn't the right time. I got accepted 72 hours before classes started. And I really do think that's what happened. And I just couldn't imagine how to figure it all out. Because I just like the idea of helping. I mean, that's what prompted that. And I thought about it again when I was older and decided that if contracts and torts were required curriculum, I was older and therefore I should be waived out of that. I shouldn't have to take contracts and torts. So I didn't go to law school. And then I thought about it again, and I wanted to go part-time. I don't believe in full-time school. Haven't believed in it for a long time. Just people should work and go to school. So anyway, couldn't find a part-time law school in Florida, so I decided that I wasn't going. And then, really, Steve, amazingly enough, almost 17 years ago, God, in the time when I was trying to figure out, do I continue my coaching practice or do I get a job? Because it was never financially rewarding. It was always emotionally rewarding and psychologically rewarding. And, it was a great gift to give to people and have them give back to me. God told me to go to law school. So that was really astounding because it was just the right time. And all of us, have dreams and they might get thwarted and stuff, but sometimes they just get rekindled or reawakened it's the right time to do it, which we could possibly envision. So I started law school in 2011 and I graduated in 2015. So it's been just over 10 years. And then on October 5th, which is what, next Sunday, it'll be 10 years since I got sworn in. So
Wow.
so I've been a practicing attorney for 9 years and 11 months and whatever, 27 days or something like that. But and estate planning came out of the idea that, and I didn't know anything about estate planning in law school. If there were attorneys listening, pretty much, unless you interned and did clerkships, you didn't learn much in law school about practicing law. You learned to answer the questions and maybe do the thinking. But so estate planning occurred to me, though, as a way to continue my life coaching practice in a different environment by helping people make really difficult decisions. And then helping them have the peace of mind of knowing that they've done something. Because it's not written in stone. None of your plan is written in stone until after you pass. So while you're alive, you can change anything. You can change your designations, you can change your beneficiaries, you can change anything. But it's better to have something in place than not have something in place, because you and I have talked about this. The state has a plan if you don't have anything in place. It's called intestacy. And then that sister and brother that you haven't spoken to for 20 years each get half of your estate because you didn't make the time to be sure that they didn't. And that happens all the time, sadly. It happens often. And you and I have talked about celebrities who die without plans, and then I think we've talked about Prince, and his whole estate might be eaten up by people arguing about that they have a right to part of his estate when he could have done something for, in the world of his wealth, maybe $10,000 or $20,000 to protect it all, instead of having millions given to lawyers. That didn't earn it. I mean, that didn't deserve it, and it doesn't go as we want. So estate planning and probate, even probate, is a horrible situation, and it's a place to be compassionate and care and serve. Elder law, the same thing. It's all about being of service. But the journey was that, and then the actual journey to fulfillment started in 2008. So yeah.
So I thought about you this weekend,
Mm-hmm.
and I couldn't wait to tell you this. I saw a movie Saturday night, true story, of a guy, I think he was 51, and decided he got kicked out of college his last senior year. He was a football player there. He got kicked out his last year. He was always in fights, always. He missed his entire senior year. He went to his, you know, where they go when everybody reunion,
Mm-hmm.
and he decided at 51 years old he wanted to go back and finish his senior year and go out for the football team at 51 years old. And it showed the determination. But 51 years old, I mean, just going back to college, which you did, and it's not as easy as when you're like 20, 21, 22. But he also went out for the football team and actually made the team. So I thought about you because here's a guy who, and it's a true story. I'll never. He went to a college called Sol Ross in Texas, small school, but I mean, amazing to go back and do something you really wanted to do, which is your story.
Yeah, it's just and it being available for the opening when you get this message that makes no sense and you figure you'll follow the prompt. You just follow the prompt. So excuse me, my cat's biting me. Why are you doing that? Anyway,
The star.
so okay,
How
he's got
did
me.
Debbie? How did being a life coach help you in your estate planning?
Well, I've been told by many that I have great intuition, which I've learned is something you can practice. Actually, if you practice it. But I really have good compassion and empathy. I don't know where I learned it. I have it, and I have the capacity to, scripturally, like, speak the truth in love. So, we've talked about it. In coaching. I could say something to you maybe a little more directly than I might say to a client. But I still ask difficult questions and can walk people through difficult choices. I have a client that I got last week who doesn't have any family, has no close family, no wife, no children, no close nieces and nephews, doesn't really talk to his sister, has a couple of young nieces, grandnieces and stuff like that he might, but nobody to name for any of the roles, nobody to name as personal representative. I mean, it's really sad. It's really sad. And he's a young guy, 40, young guy, maybe younger than that. And so we talked through it about, well, what are your options? Because you need to do something. He's got, in his case, I think he has quite a bit of wealth, but even if he didn't, even if he just owned his home, he's got to do something. So the coaching comes in for that. It's asking the question and listening for the answer, and then finding, well, have you thought about this, or have you thought about this, or have you thought about this? And then knowing that there's no wrong answer, you really can't I can make a mistake in creating documents. Okay. So I consistently have spelled your last name wrong. Let's just say, right? And if you don't catch it, then I'm busy correcting things and doing it over again. Or if you catch it, then I'm embarrassed. But the law does require T's to be crossed and I's to be dotted, for sure. But the decisions can always be redone, undone, changed. And I do it without making anybody wrong. It's not, I can't say if you called after we talked for months about naming so-and-so as your personal representative, and 6 months later you called and changed your mind, that I wouldn't think, Steve, how come you didn't figure this out 6 months ago? I just wouldn't say it to you because it's not relevant. It's not going to make anything better. So the compassion and caring really, really come out. And as with my coaching practice, I run a concierge practice. So right now I've got a client in Homestead, and he said, well, I'll meet you between I'll come to you to sign documents. I said, you're going to come to Tampa? He said, well, maybe not to Tampa. So I'm not sure exactly. I'm not sure exactly how we're going to do that. But for the most part, I will drive to you, which most attorneys don't, and not that they should. But my feeling is you're going to be more comfortable talking about what's going on in your home than you're going to be in my office. So it allows for a better conversation. And I did that with my coaching as well. I'd go to your office. It would be you had to come to me, or we'd meet at a restaurant and that we both could agree on. So that's the coaching comes into that. Really, really comes in, and it's really a gift. It's really a gift because I coached for. Well, if people knew me when I was 5, they would say I was telling people how to live their lives when they was 5. So over time, I learned some tact. So, but really for 30 years, and that people deserve to have what they say they want. So that goes in the law practice as well.
When we first started, one of the first things, and I'll never forget you saying this. You make your living as an attorney. The first thing you said is, I want to keep my clients out of probate. And I had learned from you that it becomes very expensive. And just curious, how do you keep your clients out of probate?
Well, there's a book called Eight Ways to Avoid Probate, which actually somebody quoted to me the other day. It's having people mindful that they've made choices prior to meeting with an attorney, whether it's me or not, that would not necessarily do the job. So they name minor children as beneficiaries. Minor children, because they think that's who they want to get their money. But they name their minor children as beneficiaries on accounts, and children can't inherit money until they're 18. So that sets up a probate situation because somebody didn't know better. They own their homes, and they think because they put in their will that Steve and Sophia get my residence at 123 Main Street, that will get them the home. Well, it doesn't get them the home because they have to be assigned by the court to now own the home. People don't know that, and I do hear that quite often. They have joint accounts. I spoke to somebody last week and said, well, my daughter's on my account. I said, that's great. That's great. What happens if the two of you die together? She said, oh, never thought about that. I said, no, and there's no reason you would. I mean, there's not a reason you would think of that without talking to somebody who's experienced somebody who's done that. And then it goes into probate because they haven't named. So that's how you keep people out of probate. You have the conversations that say, the thing I've learned recently, and we've talked about this many times, I absolutely recommend trusts when people have minor children because of what I said. But I'm moving to recommending a trust, at least a conversation all the time, because if you name your very healthy now niece and nephew as your beneficiary, okay, and one of those passes before you do, that share of your estate is now in probate. So in a trust, if you do that, you can name your niece and nephew as beneficiary, but you've already set up the structure that the trust will take care of what happens if they predecease you and pass it on to your descendants. So those are all ways to avoid probate. And there's no reason that anybody would know that without talking to somebody who practices. It's one of the reasons I only practice in one area. There's too much to learn in estate planning and probate and elder law to think that I could possibly handle another specialty. Now, I'm not saying other people can't. I'm just saying that I struggle enough learning probate and estate planning and elder law without trying to learn something that's totally unrelated. But that's how you avoid probate. You have a conversation with an attorney, and that's what I'm looking for. Our countdown. Where's our countdown? Which we had last month. Anyway, but that's how that answers your question, right? How you avoid probate.
I want to get. This is from Carrie. She just wrote, "I'm really enjoying your show. Can your expert explain what a revocable living trust is?"
Okay, I see the countdown now. Rebel, I feel better. Anyway, so a revocable living trust is something that you form that acts as you. People ask me, do I need a special tax ID number for my trust? No, it operates with your social security number. And it's revocable as long as whoever started the trust is alive. So if you have a trust where you've named 5 people each to get 20% of your estate, and you realize you have a favored charity, until the day you die, you can amend that trust to reduce the amount that each of those 5 individuals got and give the rest to the charity. So you can change it anytime you want to anything you want. You can dissolve it anytime you want. You can say, you know what? The only thing I had in my trust was my house, and I just sold my house, and I'm going to give away all my money before I die or whatever, and I don't want the trust anymore. So it's revocable as long as you're living. It becomes irrevocable as soon as you die, and nobody can change it. People use irrevocable trusts to protect real estate or money from creditors when there's a substantial estate. And once you put something into an irrevocable trust, you cannot touch it. You cannot get it because you cannot be the beneficiary of an irrevocable trust. So the revocable one is changeable from the moment you start it to the moment you pass. And if you start it with a spouse or a friend, It's revocable until the moment the second review passes. And if you have another question, by all means, post it.
It's amazing. This lady actually kind of went on. She said, "I'm really surprised that more attorneys don't have and she's listening on radio. She said, don't go on a show because there's so much that people don't understand when it comes to estate planning. And that's the whole reason we have a show like this on, especially here in Florida. We have an older demographic, and there's just so much to know when it comes to estate planning. So when Attorney Baker says this is the only area that she works in, I have so much respect for you, because after 16 years of doing this with attorneys, I've learned that the attorneys that kind of specialize in one area and they don't have 10 different shingles up, they have criminal, bankruptcy, business, that it's important that you contact Debbie Baker. And you know what, Debbie, I also know that, and I know we only have a few minutes left. How often should a person have their will reviewed?
Every 3 years, their documents should be looked. They should look at their documents. They don't have to wait for attorney to review them. They should look. Things change. The person who was your best friend when you did it 3 years ago, for some reason you've had a falling out. The person who was you named, for Florida at least, who lived next door, has now moved out of state, and if they're not a blood relative, they can't serve. The person you named, which you can do, like I could name a brother-in-law as long as my sister is alive, but if my sister passes, my brother-in-law can no longer serve. So you need to look at them every 3 years. Things change. When you're younger, you have a child and you forgot to put something in there. Somebody develops special needs. An older person becomes disabled. A younger person becomes disabled, and your documents are not set up to do that. For the woman who sent in the question, I mean, if you have a question you want to ask me, because Steve always asks me this, you can reach me in Tampa at 813-586-1332. I don't know if you're in Florida, but I'll do my best to answer a question generically. But that's the phone number, 813-586-1332. And the email is debbaker@London, like the city, londonbakerlaw.com. I call people back within one business day. And, I'm just really, if I can help, then I just love to help.
Debbie's with us live once a month, the last Monday of the month at 9 Eastern time. And then we replay her show during the month. Debbie, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
We'll see you next month.
We'll look forward to it. Bye, Rebel.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.